Thanks everybody for tuning in this evening and bearing with us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Heather. I am the acting vice president and the field trip coordinator. So I've been lucky enough to meet several of you in person over these past few months as we've started our field trips again, and that's been really exciting. Before we go ahead and start with our program, we just have a couple of quick announcements. So we had our first birding social on November 6th at St. Marks River Preserve State Park. These birding socials are sort of a new thing that's been instituted in which there's not really a strict field trip leader, but it's more of a casual bird at your own pace, socialize sort of outing. And we had a lot of fun. It was projected to be a super rainy day, and it ended up being really sunny and beautiful. We didn't see a whole ton of birds, but we saw some cool plants like these pitcher plants on the bottom and this ghost pipe. So that was a lot of fun. And I wasn't able to make the November 13th field trip last weekend to Lost Creek Forest, which was a joint field trip with the Red Hills Birding Club. Was Donna able to make it in?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, Donna, if you want to talk a little bit about this field trip, feel free.
I'm sorry, I meant to Donna make it to the field trip. This is Beth.
Oh, no worries. Maybe you can speak to the field trip if you went on it in a little bit. But yeah, it seemed like it was super well attended, very birdie. I got lots of really cool pictures. So looking forward to our December field trips. On Saturday, December 4th, we're going to have a birding social at Apalachee River State Park. No reservations required for that. You just show up. There's more information on our website about what time we're meeting and what to bring. And then on Sunday, December 12th, we'll be going to Tall Timbers Research Station to have a sparrow banding day and identification workshop. And that's going to be led by my boss, Jim Cox, and I'll probably end up helping lead it, but we'll learn a lot about fire ecology and why we ban birds and how it helps in conservation. This trip is limited to 12 people. We have 9 spots left. So please email me to reserve your spot. And my email is also posted on the website. And due to Tall Timbers policies, we also ask that you're fully vaccinated if you plan on attending. Another exciting new thing to look forward to is we're starting a conservation grant up to $500 awarded annually. And these are for projects that are based around research, habitat improvement, environmental education or outreach, and community engagement. And this is for folks, individuals, groups in any of the counties that we serve wishing to conduct any of these projects. The deadlines for the applications are going to be January 1st to February 15th. And there is also going to be more information about sort of more specifically what we're looking for posted on our website very soon. And we'll share that on social media once it's up and running. Donna was going to give some Chimney Swift Tower updates. I don't think she was able to make it on this evening, but for those of you who don't know, we received some funding to create a Chimney Swift Tower that is going to go up at Lake Alberta. And Donna's husband, Jody, who also works at Native Nurseries, has led some woodworking events with some students to help create this Chimney Swift Tower. And one of our local artists and birders has volunteered to paint it and decorate it when it's done. So that will be something to look forward to for sure in the next coming weeks. Another exciting thing, our Audubon intern, Sierra Nelson, who is a student at FAMU, was going to work at Pineview Elementary, but due to COVID, we weren't allowed to interact with the kids. So she decided she was going to build a bluebird trail at Joe Budd WMA. And Jody, pictured here on the right in the blue, is leading even more woodworking, woodshop working events with a lot of the FAMU Outdoors Club, I believe it is. They're building these blue boxes. They're going to install them, I think, next month at Joe Budd and create some signage and host some trips for children there. And with that, I want to welcome Beth Grant, Beth is a retired mental health counselor, educator, leader of Save Our Forest movement, and she's also the former president of the Friends of Lost Creek Forest. I'm sorry Donna wasn't here to give you a more grand introduction, but we're really excited to hear you speak tonight, and I will stop sharing so you can take it away.
Okay, is that good? You got a full screen?
Yes.
Okay. Lost Creek Forest is at the Thomasville Regional Airport, which is about 5 miles northeast of Thomasville on Pavo Road. And there's our website and our Facebook page. It's about 200 acres of apparently original old growth, never been cut or significantly disturbed except for roads and trails and some other things I'll tell you about. So that's one of the biggest white oaks, and this is a picture of it from the ground. Some of the limbs are as big as trees, and I always like to show people that this is a mature white oak, and this right here is a mature American olive, just to show you that everybody has their different life expectancies and size and everything. And that shows you reference point next to people, that same tree, that's the tree right there. It's also called a basket oak. That's what the wooden baskets are made out of in the Appalachians. And I looked to see how big the white oak Georgia champion tree was, and it was like 2 or 3 times that big. So the mountains, you can't compete with the mountains. White oak is at the bottom of its range here, and it's fairly unusual, but there's a pretty big population of them here at Lost Creek. That's a swamp chestnut oak. That's me and my friend Yvonne. That's the biggest trees that we have are some white oaks and some swamp chestnut oaks, and then there's some gigantic pignut hickories also, and magnolias, and also American beech. So it's called a beech magnolia spruce pine slope forest and wetlands. The beech, unfortunately, and I'd be interested in knowing if anybody else knows about this, there's several diseases in American beech now, and this one has died, and there's other big ones that are dying, and so far people think it's a root disease, and but there's other diseases killing them all across the Northeast, so hopefully it's not going to be like the chestnuts or the other trees that have been wiped out. So this is a spruce pine, and they're the tallest trees in the forest. They require moist soils and no fire, so they grow on slopes and predominantly hardwood forests, and they're the predominant pine on the slope forest, whereas longleaf require dry, sandy soil in uplands, and they're fire dependent. So fire would be on the hilltop here, and then as you come down the hill, down the slope, the longleaf can't live in the moist soil, and the spruce pine do. And all the oaks and everything, the deciduous trees leaves don't burn like pine needles do. So if fire started coming down the hill, it usually would stop when you get to the predominantly hardwood areas, but occasionally they would burn all the way down to the creeks. So this is a picture of the Red Hills region, bioregion, and this is the Apalachee River here, and this is the Osceola River here, sorry. And then that includes the watersheds for both the Apalachee and the Osceola. and the airport is about here, and the Oscilla actually starts up here, although it doesn't show it on this map. And just like it goes underground off and on in Florida, that happens a few times here in South Thomas County also. And the St. Mark's River watershed actually comes up to about there too. So it's kind of a meeting of three watersheds. Here's another map of the Red Hills, and this is the Apalachee, and this is the Oscilla. And then if you can see the pale blue, that's the watershed. So it's all this is considered the Red Hills. And this is the forest right there, and that's the airport right there. And again, this one only shows the Oscilla starting right here, but there's a bunch of creeks, including one called Oscilla Creek, that join together and come join that. On this picture, the beige are plantations, and you can see why it's so beautiful when you drive from Tallahassee to Thomasville. You know, there's so many plantations and conservation easements in South Georgia and North Florida, and thanks to tall timbers predominantly. But all these are not in conservation easement, but a lot of them are. So this is a map of the forest. This is Pavo Road that goes to Pavo, Georgia. It's also called 122, and in town it's Remington Avenue. This is the city golf course, and this is the airport runway up here. And Lost Creek comes from over here and flows over here, like I said, into the Oscilla Creek. And then this other much smaller creek starts over here and comes through this wooded area and the golf course, and then joins Lost Creek there. And then these are the trails, and they were all there when we started coming in 2008. But we've added one about here. And this, I think, may even have been an open field before World War II. But in World War II, it was definitely cleared, and it was a artillery range, and there was an anti-aircraft gun right here. And after the war, this was cornfields, and then they planted pines here, here, and here. And they hadn't been maintained for a long time, but about 2 years ago, they hired somebody to go in, and they did a really, really good job of reestablishing the fire lanes, and burned it really, really well. So we were happy to see that. All of this probably would have been longleaf pine long ago, but the hardwood forest has come up the slope. So here's a history of the property. In 1728, the Yamaco Indians started a new band as they separated from the Lower Creek Confederacy and the Yamasee after the Yamasee War, which was against the British, and they were protesting what they considered unfair trade, and also the Europeans enslaving some of the natives. They were defeated, the natives were defeated, and but the Yamaco still wanted diplomatic relations with the British. And the Yamasee, who are more in southeast Georgia and into Florida, allied with the Spanish and moved further south. So I think the Creeks maintained some relationship with the Yamaco, really aligned with the British. In 1733, the chief, and Tomo means chief, Tomochichi gave Oglethorpe Yamaco bluffs overlooking the Savannah River for the city of Savannah, and they became good friends. There was a lot of cooperation between them, including trade, location of roads, and travel and diplomacy with various tribes. So Tomochichi basically hung out with Oglethorpe a whole lot of the time and took him all over the state, showing the roads and all that kind of thing, and helping them establish trade and all that. Even helped them make their roads and all that. And the next year, Miko Tomochichi, who was 84 at that time, and 8 other Yamaco traveled to England with Oglethorpe. They were there for 3 months. He died in 1737, and then the Yamaco broke up in 1743. So what does that have to do with Lost Creek Forest? In 34 to 43, some of the Yamaco settled in the area near Hurd's Pond. So that was, around the time that they were breaking up. And it's possible that Oglethorpe had visited here with Tomochichi and other Yamaco, and that's why they came back here. And Hurd's Pond is real close to the forest. I'll show it to you in a minute. And there was a train crossing called Yamaco train crossing near Hurd's Pond into the 20th century. And Native American artifacts have been found all over the area, including Long Lost Creek. So in 2008, we named the little creek that didn't have a name, Yamaha Creek, in their honor. And this just show you quickly that Oglethorpe came across, of course, in a big ship and to Charlestown, and then he took a smaller boat down to Port Royal. Oh no, the big boat came to Port Royal. That's right. And then he took a smaller boat down to meet Tomochichi here, and I'm not sure if it was that moment that Yamaco turned over the bluff to Oglethorpe. And then the settlers came from Port Royal and started the settlement. This is Tomochichi and his nephew who became the chief after he died. But like I said, it didn't last very long. This is Mary. I should have looked up her name. I can't think of her last name. She was half Native and half British. And she did a lot of translating in between the British and the Native people. And I have no idea how authentic this is as far as the dress goes and stuff. I mean, it could be just somebody made that up, but it could be authentic too. I don't know. And that's a historical marker honoring the donation of the land. And Tomochichi was actually born in Savannah. His grave is still in downtown Savannah. Okay, after that, the land was owned by several plantations. The land lotteries for the whole third of southern Georgia were in 1820 to 1840 something. And so that's probably when some of the plantations were established. Then in 1941, the city and county jointly purchased land to build a new airport. And in 42, they bought some more land to total 1055 acres. In January 42, it was turned over to the War Department to build the Thomasville Army Air Base for use as a military reservation, an air base for training fighter pilots, and receiving patients for Finney General Hospital. Finney General Hospital is what became Southwestern State Hospital on the south side of Thomasville, and it had 4 miles of hallways. I worked there in 73 to 77, and it was quite an interesting place. And it closed a few years ago. Small sections of the forest. What else I wanted to say about that was that the people would be brought in, injured would be brought in from the European theater and into the airport, and then carried by ambulance to Finney General Hospital, and for their rehabilitation. And also there was a fairly large number of German prisoners of war that lived there and worked on farms all over the area. Anyway, small sections of the forest were used for artillery training. That's where I showed you where the artillery range was. And there was the anti-aircraft tower. There were roads. I was on one of the roads that's one of our main trails now, and somebody came up, and his father had been there in World War II, and he said that trail was used for night driving. They had to drive down it in the dark to learn how to do that. But most of the forest was undisturbed. The air base closed in 45 after the war. Whoops. I'm not sure how to go back. Oh, well, I think I'll just skip it. 43, the Thomasville Army Air Base. This is an aerial view. And so this obviously is the runways. This was barracks and office buildings and everything like that. And then this area over here had the mess hall and more barracks and that kind of thing. And so this is the forest, so you can see that it wasn't disturbed except for that big patch right there where the artillery range was, which, like I said, I think many already have been. Weird. This was in the 80s and 90s, there were archery clubs that rented the forest for $1 a year. And they made these piles of what looks like tarp that's just rotted and turned into big threads. And there are about 40 of them in the forest. And we thought, well, they're ugly and blah, blah. But one day I was walking along and found a 10-point buck on the far side of where I was dead. And he hadn't been dead long. He wasn't rotten or anything. And the ground was completely bare all the way around it where he had tried to get loose. He'd gotten his antler stuck in this fiber stuff. So we've removed a few of them, but boy, is that a job. And there's plenty more to do. In 2005, the county comp plan meetings were held, and the forest was pointed out as deserving conservation by Rick Bracey, who lives on the other side of the golf course from the forest. And I was there, and that really got my attention. In January 2008, there was an article in the paper that land at the airport was being surveyed for a possible industrial park. And that got my attention too, because I thought, oh my gosh, is that that forest? And but I was busy at work and whatever, and I didn't do anything about it. But then Friday, May the 9th in 2008, there was an article in the paper that the city council was to vote the next Monday on selling the land at the airport to the Payroll Development Authority for an industrial park. So I trotted, as soon as I got off work, I trotted down to the engineering office and looked at maps and found out that it was the forest where they were planning to make an industrial park. That very next Monday, on May the 12th, there was a city council workshop, and Charles, Rick, and I were at the meeting. Charles is a organic beef farmer right down the road from the forest, and Rick is the one that lives nearby. And we'd made a bunch of phone calls, and a bunch of other people had made a bunch of phone calls. And I had written a long letter saying, please delay this decision because, you know, this could very well be a very rare remnant of old growth forest. And so enough people had heard about it through phone calls and just from the article in the paper that there were over 30 people at the meeting. We were at the workshop, which is the meeting before the meeting. And then at 30 people, they were there to oppose the sale. And the council would have had voted 3-2 to sell it, but it required a second reading, which was never held. The head of the Payroll Development Authority was on the city council. There are only 5 city council people. And he was so patronizing. It was just, we're not going to hurt your trees, honey. Stuff like that. Anyway, that Thursday, Rick and Charles spoke at the county commission because the forest property is owned jointly by the city and the county. It was given back to them after many years after the war. And by the next Monday, I had Dr. Gil Nelson and Wilson Baker there to do a survey and tell us, you know, what kind of forest it was and you know, give us a lot of information on it. And that started the Save Our Forest movement, where we have organizational meetings, and it was kind of a deal like build it and they will come. People would show up at the meeting. That was exactly what we needed that night. We had a lot of publicity by flyers, a lot of newspaper articles, interviews on the TV, and the paper was just wonderful. Like I wrote up a full-page article on this survey, and they printed the whole thing. We filled up a whole page of the newspaper. This is what they had planned to do for the industrial park, and this is all the heart of the forest here. This is all old growth slope forest, and this is Yamaha Creek coming from the golf course and going into Lost Creek, which was here. And this was so insulting. You could have, there's a big terrace here, and so you're looking down into the creek, and there were flags delineating the creek, you know, just right along this line where, you know, you could stand there and you're right on the edge of the terrace. And biologist said that that creek would have just been a ditch if they had done that. So this is Wilson. I'm sure many of y'all know him. And this is Gil Nelson. And that's by that American beech that was in that other picture that is dead now. Branches all over the ground. This is Smilax puma or Sarsaparilla Vine, which used to be in root beer. And it was one of the first things that Wilson and Gil noticed as an indicator of the forest never having been significantly disturbed. It's a smilax, but there are no thorns and it doesn't climb, it just stays on the ground. And so if there's been much disturbance, it's gone. But there's just masses of it all over the place at Lost Creek. So they said that showed it had never been plowed or probably never clear cut or anything like that. We had a public information meeting at Thomas University with about 70 people present. We gave videos, slides, talks on the forest, and talked about it being inappropriate for an industrial park, partly because it's moist soil and creeks, but obviously too because it had such a magnificent forest on it. We took packets to the commissioners with a video of Gil and Wilson and other things, and the survey of the forest that I had written up, and the newspaper articles and all kinds of stuff like that. And we took them to each commissioner's house, and there are 12 commissioners, only 5 city council. And so we handed them this packet with a letter individually addressed to each commissioner. And, we sat or whatever and talked with the commissioners and explained it all to them and everything. And the Rotary Club, we had a short talk at one of their meetings. And then it was 5 weeks before the county commission was to vote on it on June the 23rd. 170 people showed up to oppose the sale and signed petitions. And many of our group, other community members, people from Tall Timber spoke against it. And Camille Titus, if y'all know people in Thomasville, you'd know Camille. Her family is from Thomasville because they go back to the 1820s and are some of the main founders of Thomasville. And after they called time, they told us we only had 15 minutes. And after they called time, she jumped up and said, "I'm sorry, I have to speak for my father, who was our Republican state senator for a number of years and very well known and loved in town. And he was a true conservationist and a true conservative. And she said, he asked me to speak. And this is what he said: "Don't do it." And then she sat down. None of the 12 voted for it. And they voted unanimously not to sell it. Then our group was asked by the head of the commission to continue research and activities and report back to him, and we did a couple of years later. And then they did a comp plan, which I'll give you some quotes of in a minute. And then in 2011, we incorporated. Lord, that was a nightmare for me. And here's our mission. The mission of Friends of Lost Creek Forest is to support, promote, and further the protection and resource conservation of the public land known as Lost Creek Forest in Thomas County, Georgia. Scientific and historical study of its natural and cultural resources, and public environmental education and stewardship. This is one of the posters that we put all over town, inviting people to the public information meeting on the 12th. And here's things that we quoted from the comprehensive plan when we presented more information to the city and county. The comprehensive plan for the city and county says to preserve and protect open space, unique natural areas, wetlands, water and woodland resources, scenic views, and areas of natural beauty in order to maintain a sense of rural character, provide passive recreational opportunities, and preserve environmental quality. Well, you couldn't describe the forest better than that. And to develop a system of recreational facilities and parks throughout the county that may be part of or separate from active recreational facilities. So obviously we've always advocated for passive, not active. I did have one of the park boards invite me to come speak to them, and they wanted to know, could we put ball fields out there? I was very politely said, no way. Okay, this is a topo map, and this shows the runways at the airport, and this shows Usilla Creek going down to join that other place on that other map, and this is that open field that's now planted pines, and this is Lost Creek coming from seepage drains over here, and this is Herd's. I've always heard it called Herd's Pond, but this map calls it Herd's Lake, and it was dammed and used as a fishing lake for a long time. But when the dam broke, they let it go, and now it's pretty much a pretty nice cypress bog, and it's still very much habitat for lots of big wading birds like wood storks and others. And yeah, that right there it is. Okay, yeah, Yamaha Creek starts over here, and this is the golf course, and then it goes here and joins Lost Creek. This is one of the brochures that we made up. And this is the other side of that brochure with a map. Thomas University has done a lot for us, and they made this brochure. They did lots of mapping, and now one of the biology teachers who also teaches the mapping now, because the other person retired, is doing research and all kinds of teaching and everything out there. So those of you who were on the field trip, this is how we went. We came in, we met here, and we went here, and this is where we saw the Florida milk vine right there. And then we went here, and that's where we saw that fallen black oak. And went here, and the giant white oak is, yeah, number 12. And the old beech is number 13. And this is where we saw the creek, and this bridge goes across the creek. Oh boy, that picture was taken when the creek was super full. And then we went down here and saw the bunch of different plants and trees and stuff, needle palm and 2 different other kinds of palms, and didn't hear a whole lot of birds, but I guess there were some. And then we came up here, and this was that ephemeral wetland with the gigantic spruce pine right there, which I think is the one that was in the other. And then we came back along here. This is lower trail. Obviously that's going downhill because the creeks are down there. And then this is that seepage bog that had tracks in it over where the Jack in the Pulpit live, where I was freaking out. This is a big wetland area right next to the bridge that goes over the airport road. And there's a long, this always has water in it, but this doesn't always have water in it. And you can see how windy, natural, undisturbed blackwater creeks are. And these are other wetlands also. And there's others, there's some more fern seeps and that kind of thing around in there, even bigger than this one. That's this fern seep right here. And that's the needle palm. So here are just going to be some pictures of Lost Creek. It's a lot bigger than Yamaco. It's usually about 5 feet deep, and I don't know, about 12 feet across or something like that. There's a nice bend. That's an ephemeral wetland, and that's a royal fern. I don't know if y'all know those, but they can get really big. That's another picture. I'm not sure if it's the same one. And boy, this spring, I went out when the cinnamon fern were out, and it was breathtaking. There were so many huge bunches of them, and they were just gorgeous. I just went the right week for sure. So this shows how big the royal fern can get. Real different leaf arrangements and stuff. They send out a big sporangia. Like I said, 3 different kinds of palms, blue stem, sawtooth, and needle palm. That's the fern seep back in better days before people were driving in it. This is some of the Jack in the Pulpit that were big. This wasn't its biggest year though. There was one year where they came up to my waist. That's the flower. Some Jack in the Pulpit have purple in their spathe. I mean in their petal, but these are all green. That's the spathe right there. An interesting thing that I learned about them online recently was that if they have enough food in their bulbs, they'll come up and make 2 leaves and the flower. But if they don't, they'll just send up 1 leaf. And that's the fruit. And it disappeared pretty quick. I hung one of them in a tree, so I would have it to show people. But it's just bright, gorgeous red, and it's obviously tasty to somebody. And then this is Yamaha Creek, the smaller creek that comes from the golf course that we named Yamaha Creek. Lots of bends and lines. And then there's some canopy pictures. That's a sourwood, which is one of our prettiest fall color trees. That's a different American beech, I think, than that other one. I think it is. That's my godson, Steve. Beech are smooth barked and always have lichens on them. And then somebody took this picture of this heart-shaped lichen, which I thought was cool. This is called Christmas lichen. These are shield lichens that are flat, and there's others that are 3-dimensional. And this is a Florida milk vine. We have the largest population documented that I know of in the world, and we counted 50 one year. But they have been looking for more and finding more in Florida, so I don't actually know if it's still considered the largest population, but it's definitely the largest population in Georgia. And has these real dark maroon centers and the pretty maroon flowers. And we have never had reproduction at Lost Creek, and it's pollinated by a tiny little fly, and obviously we don't have it. I got 1 seed pod from Birdsong one year, and they let me send it to Bach Towers, to their seed bank in their garden. And somebody in Mixoki Land Co-op wrote me this year, and I tried to connect her to Athens Botanical Garden. Has been wanting seed pods to save and grow. And then Elizabeth, the teacher at Thomas University, said there was another patch in Boston, Georgia, or near Boston, Georgia, and she got seed pods from it. This was one of the most touching days at Lost Creek. This is Dan Drapalik, who wrote the book on milk vines in the 60s, and he had not been out in the field for 2 years. And Tom Patrick, who was the head of rare plants for DNR, Georgia DNR, brought him one day about 10 years ago. And he said, I didn't think I'd ever be out in the field again. And so he was really cherishing seeing the Florida milk vine, which is one of the most rare milk vines. And he took a flower and had brought a microscope so he could confirm for sure that it was a Florida milk vine, and he did. But I just found that so touching. He was so sweet and so happy to be there. So since 2008, which is when the county voted not to sell it, the research and education that's been done out there is Thomas County Central High School AP Environmental Science classes have done water quality, microinvertebrates, soils, canopy, and planted ponds and fire ecology, tree age, and invasive plants research there several years in a row. Thomas and and Will Sheftel organized the program. So if any of y'all know him, you know it was thorough and detailed and excellent. Thomas University has had environmental education classes there for many years before we got involved, and Woody Search was the teacher, and he was on our board later. Elizabeth Harrell, who's there now, started the first herbarium in Thomasville in Thomas County with plants from the forest. Dr. Christine Ambrose is the person who did a lot of the mapping and brochures for us and for Wolf Creek Trout Lake Preserve and all kinds of other local areas. She really provided wonderful service before she retired. And Elizabeth is now doing milk vine research. The Land Forest and Wildlife Management program at Southern Regional Technical College goes on field trips there regularly. And the teachers there have been Jonathan Burnham, Jamie Williams, and Jeremy Green is there now, and that's Lane Green's son. And they do counts of deer and predator traps with a camera taking a picture of it, and work on invasives and help clear the trails and all kinds of stuff. The Magnolia School has come, and I've given presentations to them. Valdosta State University has brought Dr. Richard Carter, who does their herbarium, has brought his dendrology classes a number of years. ABAC in Tifton has come. University of Georgia has had some field trips and done some signage work for us. We've had programs for the Boy Scouts and the Frontier Girls, which is not Girl Scouts, but it's something like it. And the Resource Center, which is a after-school program started by Jane Fonda. So this is one of the AP Environmental Science classes presenting their research at the forest to our board. And then we've done a lot of public tours and events, general walks, family fun days every year, mushroom walks, herps. Peter did that and found a real rare salamander. Tree ID ecosystems. The fly-in is something that they have in October once a year, where all kinds of planes come in, and everybody gets to look at them and ride in some of them and stuff. Row show programs we've had for them. One of our most popular has been Native American Tools, Primitive Skills, done by Jonathan Burnham. Ethnobotany done by Scott Davis. Poetry workshops, Florida Milk Run workshops, costume contests for Halloween, scavenger hunts and nature walks, Thanksgiving and New Year's hikes. And groups have included the Florida Native Plant Society. We've had their state conference 1 year, and the Magnolia chapter several times. Georgia Botanical Society, I do an annual walk with a bow growth forest at the forest and at Greenwood, and then over to Wolf Creek Trout Lily Preserve. And we've also had other field trips and participated in the pilgrimage when they were in Valdosta. Audubon Society has been there twice now. Hike at Babies, I'll show you a picture in a minute. Learning in Retirement at VSU, Red Hills Awareness, and Southwest Georgia Conservancy, which has folded now, but it was in Moultrie. And then in 2018, we were chosen as hands-on heroes by Hands-On Thomas County. And we got to even lead the Rose Parade that year. It was kind of fun. That the Hands-On Thomas County is just a fabulous organization. I really don't even know if y'all have anything like that in Tallahassee, but they keep us going at the Butterfly Garden, and they have these huge events once a year where as many as 1,500 people volunteer all over the county. And so once a year they have an award show, so to speak, and we were chosen that year. Volunteers from Hands on Thomas County every year. This is some of the kids at the Butterfly Garden, and these are both at the forest. And like I said, the technical college classes help with trail maintenance and invasive removals and other stuff, research. It was featured in the book, The Natural Communities of Georgia, which is a gigantic big book by Leslie Edwards, Jonathan Ambrose, and Kate Kirkman. She's the one that came and visited the forest, wrote about it. So this is our board as of last winter. I've since retired from it. And I was retired mental health counselor and educator. This is Charles Conklin, who is an organic beef farmer just about a mile from the forest. This is Will Sheftal, which probably quite a few of y'all know because he recently retired from office in Tallahassee. And this is Elizabeth Harrell, the teacher that I keep talking about that teaches biology and environmental geoscience at Thomas University and is the director of the herbarium. This is Jeremy Green, Lane Green's son. He is such a sweetheart, as you can tell, who teaches the land, forest, and wildlife management at the technical college. This is Aubrey Plymel, who graduated from that program before Jeremy came. And then she was the first student to enroll in the BS program at Thomas University, where you get, if you get this degree, then you can go to TU and all your credits will count towards this degree. So, and she's still there and real involved with the forest. This is Dr. Brown, who's an Episcopal priest at All Saints and real interested naturalist. This is Janelle, who was our birder leader of the field trip Saturday, and y'all know probably from Apalachee Audubon, and because she's starting a Red Hills Audubon. And this is Shelly Nichols, who is interested in environmental education and does water quality monitoring. This is the Native Plant Society on a field trip some years back with Wilson. This is Thomas University before 2008 with Woody Search leading one of his classes. This is one of the VSU dendrology classes, and that's Dr. Carter from VSU, Valdosta State. And he allowed us to have other people, so Charles and I were there and several other friends at Wilson. This was a mushroom walk led by Phalo. Some of y'all may know him. He's active in the Native Plant Society. And this is a friend of his from the University of Florida, who's very, very knowledgeable. And this is Jennifer, I can't remember her last name. Anyway, she was at FSU at the time. She's moved on now. And it was raining when we got there, and it rained the whole time we were there until about this time. And it was fabulous. I mean, the mushrooms were all fresh and beautiful and shiny, and it was a really fun time. And this is a mushroom that the woman from the University of Florida was just thrilled and delighted to see, because her mentor uses it to make a dye, and it's real rare. So she was real thrilled to find that. And this is, we've done the mushroom walks, I think 3 times now. And at the end, we put them all out on the table, and they ID all the different ones. That was the costume contest with me and the little neighbor girl. I was a Luna moth caterpillar. This is Joe Burnham and his son Luke, and he does the primitive skills classes. That's a picture from the Tallahassee Democrat about that. Mini walk, one of many walks. This is one of our family fun days. I bring a fire pit, and we roast marshmallows and hot dogs and stuff, and we have all kinds of games for the children, and then we have an active program for the children and a walk for the adults. It's a lot of fun, and we do it in January, so it's cold enough to make a fire and to wear warm clothes. be snug. This is the Hike It Baby. I don't know if any of y'all know about this, but they're from Tallahassee, and they hike all over the place. I mean, they hike 2 and 3 and 4 times a week with their babies. And this little fellow walked. He was quite brave and quite active and didn't complain or whine or anything. But that was so much fun for me. This is the Learning and Retirement Group from Valdosta State. This is another Audubon walk with, y'all recognize most of these folks, Brian and Jan and all these other good folks. Okay, so the butterfly garden is also part of, sponsored, so to speak, by Friends of Lost Creek Forest. And it's at the Cherokee Lake right next to the Rose Garden. And it's about 99% native plants. And I'll just go through some pictures quickly that I'd like to show off. That's the state butterfly of Georgia. And Florida state butterfly is zebra longwing. And this is from Covington Street, and that's a bench. And this is got to be early spring, but the coral honeysuckle bloomed all year last year. It was so nice. But this is several years ago. These are salt bushes and cherries that were letting grow there. And the rose garden's over here, and Cherokee Lake's over behind these trees. And this is what it looks like from Google Earth. You can see it's in the shape of a butterfly: wing, wing, body, body, wing, wing. Part of those wings are under the trees. And we have a couple of festivals every year. That's my sweet mother-in-law. She died of COVID last year. This is showing people bird poop caterpillars. That's one of our favorite things to do at the October Festival. Everybody likes to see the bird poop caterpillars, which is the giant swallowtail. If y'all don't know that, it's looks just like bird poop. It's in certain instars. And that's its butterfly on the white bidens, which is a fabulous nectar plant, but a nightmare when its seeds get on you. So we've banished it from the butterfly-shaped garden. For the most part, we always miss some, and growing it on the hillside across the way. American Lady on white bidens. Checkered skipper on frog fruit, which is a tiny little plant. That's about the size of a BB, I guess you'd say. And it's all the host plant, also a host plant for the, I think it's the Phaon crescent. But all the teeny tiny little butterflies and moths love this plant. You know, they'll see them nectaring on these tiny little flowers. Gulf Larry on pink swamp milkweed, which is the only native milkweed we've had a lot of success with, and we've had a lot of success with it. I highly recommend it. Just nothing else has survived. I don't know why. Even the butterfly weed. And that's the underside. I just always love to try to get people to see this in the sun, because these are silver, bright silver in the sun. These spots. And the Gopher Lily caterpillar on passion vine, its host plant. And this is y'all's state butterfly, the zebra longwing. And it's also host for the variegated fritillary. And we've seen one caterpillar and one, maybe a butterfly twice at the butterfly garden of the variegated fritillary. Monarch on the pink swamp milkweed, which of course all the milkweeds are the larval host plants for monarch and queen butterflies. And soldier also, but they don't live up here. Carpenter bee on giant goldenrod. There's lots of species of goldenrod. That's one of the big realizations that I had a number of years ago. You think you know what goldenrod is, and then you find out there are 15 species, and same with lots and lots of other plants. This is one that gets about 8 feet tall. So this is the last slide, and this is if y'all want to have information on the websites and Facebook pages and when the festivals are. This August is the Great Georgia Pollinator Count, and October is just our local butterfly festival. Lost Creek Forest connections, my email. And I'm happy to give tours to groups of the forest, of the pollinator garden, and of Wolf Creek Trout Lily Preserve. And four of your members stayed Saturday, and I got to show them the pollinator garden. And as anybody knows who was with us Saturday, I love to talk about these things. So I'd be happy to take y'all on trips. And I also have slideshows like this. This one, also one on bringing nature home. I've seen him speak 5 times, and he sent me his slides, so that's what I use. And butterfly gardening with native plants, and one I did on Wolf Creek Trout Lily Preserve. And down here is volunteers needed, especially gardening on Saturday at 9. We've had a woman from Tallahassee come several times recently, and I really appreciated her. And y'all, I guess, wouldn't be interested in the board unless any of you live in Thomasville. Oh, I saw Judith is on the thing. Yeah, you could do it, Judith. I forgot to ask for donations when y'all were on the field trip Saturday, and we really need them really bad right now. So if y'all want to send any, make a check out to Friends of Lost Creek Forest and send it to me at 406 Strong Street, 31792. Okay, that's what I have, and be glad to take questions. Or can't believe I ended it exactly 8 o'clock. That's a miracle. I'll leave this up for just a little bit. So is our host ready to open up for questions? Hostess.
Yes, I just managed to get back in. All right. So does anyone have any? Okay, we have a question from Beth. Beth Wright says, is the preserve open to the public outside tours and other organized events?
No, for a number of reasons. One is that it's on the airport itself. And 2 is we would have to have a lot of coordination with the city and the county, which we haven't really had the opportunity to do until maybe the last couple of years, because the city manager was determined that was going to be a industrial park, and he wanted to definitely do businesses all across on 202 and all along Airport Road, and he was not a pleasant person to deal with. But we've got a new one now. But we're really in a transition period because I left, and the young people that work full time and have children and all that are trying to get it together. And personally, I think we should ask them to hire us an executive director and let the board, be with the executive director. That's what they do with Keep Thomas County Beautiful, and it works out real well because we need more support. And all these years we've had to pay liability insurance for us and the city and the county, which is kind of crazy. And Elizabeth told me recently that if the city's not willing to pay that big liability policy, that they may close it for public tours and just have the university and the technical college go there. I'm totally opposed to that, but that's why I'm trying to get up money. If we need $800 for the that insurance, plus $200 for board insurance. That's what we've spent most of our money on the whole time. So anyway, that was a very long answer to a simple question. So maybe one day, if the city is much more involved, they'll have open days. I tried doing open days actually for several months one spring, and people just didn't show up. So anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much. We have another question in the chat from Charlene M. White. Charlene asks, please say again, what was that species of sarsaparilla?
Smilax pumila, P-U-M-I-L-A. Just say, let me get out of this. Oh well. Some of my great-great-grandmothers, numbers of great-grandmothers were physicians back in the 1800s when you didn't have to have a medical degree. You studied it on your own and called yourself a doctor. And one of my dad's cousins wrote a book about their grandmother and about other people in the family, and included a prescription that called for sarsaparilla vine. I thought that was so cool. I've never seen it for sale anywhere. Gil used to say that, Gil Nelson used to say that it would make such a wonderful ground cover, but nobody's growing it or selling it that I know of, but it's nice.
Yes, any more questions?
Judith, are you still there?
We're all still here.
I was asking for Judith in particular. Judith is
Oh,
my
okay.
my fellow Thomas County, and she grew up out in the woods and running around on horses and with a goat cart and everything with her brothers and sisters. So she knows all this from birth, all of our nature.
Well, Beth, thank you so much for joining us and telling us all about Lost Creek Forest. I know that I really enjoyed this, very informative. Thank you everyone who came. Sorry about our technical difficulties, but the recording will be on our YouTube and on the Facebook page. And yeah, so thank you again, Beth.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I always enjoy talking about nature.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course.